Well, I guess we in church. We're still alive. You know, if you only read the symptoms and not address the root of the problem will continue. If you only read the symptoms and not address the problem will continue. Giving honor to God because we are in his house. I say this often, sometimes you might not understand, but I'm the sheriff, but somebody helped me to get here. And one of those people is that lovely young lady sitting down there. That's my wife. She hates for me to put her on spot, but we come here tired, very tired. We didn't go to bed about 2 o'clock. But I said this morning, honey, do you want to go? And she laughed, and she's here with me. So I want to thank my wife for always sticking by me. Because, see, first you don't know, with all the accolades that you heard, it is a great sacrifice. That's right. Amen. An unbelievable sacrifice. And I know my wife said, I got 30 minutes, y'all. Let me tell you that now. My wife has timed me for 30 minutes because she know I can go when I get cranked up. So imagine the sacrifice. It is. But imagine the sacrifice is this, that after I leave here today in a rush, I'm going to try to have a lunch with my wife, and the next time I see her is going to be on Thursday or Friday. But see, yesterday when I got up, I drug around to all the events with me so they can see their sheriff. And about 8:30 last night, she decided to do her business, which is support me in a way that is good, because for the first time in 33 years, now she in my business. As the sheriff and the police, she ain't never got into my business until I got this job. So, and I'm going to tell it, honey. So she said, I promised the women at the detention center, because we don't say jail, we're going to talk about justice. I promised them something, and so many promises have been made to them and not kept. So she said, I have to do this. So we went to buy things that other people take for granted. Soap, hair products, undergarments. And so we at Walmart last night to about 11:30, 12 o'clock, shopping for people who are incarcerated in the facility downtown. And so when the registered finished, I asked her how much. And I won't say honey. And I'm saying, would anybody know the sacrifice beyond the badge and beyond the colors and beyond everything that we have to go through to be recognized with all the honors and accolades and stuff? And sometimes she reminds me, I don't remember our son doing that. She said, because I was raising him while you were gone. Well, I don't remember when my daughter did that, but I was still taking care of the house when you were gone. So all these accolades are beautiful, but it's a sacrifice that you have to make. And I always talk, and wife is probably saying he off key now. Because see, imagine the thing that you heard that she said, my lovely friend here, the doctor, that says, after he left, he was immediately hired back. 30 days, I only had 30-day break. But I talked to her, and imagine she's saying to me, really? Because when I finished with the police department, she said, thank you for giving me my husband back. because she has to share me with the entire community, now part of the nation. Because after becoming this person here in Charlotte, now I'm being asked to travel the United States and sometimes the world to speak and try to find justice and equality. And it's tough. It's tough. But I want to thank this house for inviting me. I want to say that. I don't take that for granted. I thank this house for inviting me, for my friend, the doctor, because she knows me and she sees me struggle sometimes. But I want to also thank the shepherd of this house, Brother Harris. Because, see, he goes through a lot too that y'all may not know, because everybody wants a piece of him. Everybody wants to talk to him. So you have to find out, is it worth it? Is it really worth the sacrifice? For me, my wife talks about, and I love, we've been married for 33 years. Nobody want to go what we went through. But we're here. Everybody who bet us out, they out. Without the husband, without the wife, and probably ain't even married, but they bet us out. But it took God to bring us to this point. And it took God to put me here along with your support. And I'm going to get to the message, honey. But here's what happens. When I wanted to take this first time, I had to go in the foyer of my house and say, God, if this is your will, let it be. And I remember these things because, see, everybody don't love the sheriff. Y'all love me, but some people don't love me. And so I remember when everything was going on in my first term, my wife came to me in our guest bedroom, because I was just sitting in the guest bedroom looking out the window. And she says, I've never seen you not fight like you used to fight on this road. And I said, well, you told me to give it to God, and that's the battle God will fight for me. And this placed me the first time inside the detention center, because we don't say jail. So the second go round, well, during our first time, it was horrible. Death threats on top of death threats, on top of death threats, on top of death threats. People coming by your house because your record is public. And so then we had to decide whether we want to do this again. Again. And God sent an angel to us while she was shopping. Not me. While she was shopping for shoes, we're together as much as we can be. So we together. And a gentleman was standing in the mall, just standing. And I passed him 3 or 4 times. And then all of a sudden he stopped us and said, hey, let me tell you something. Whatever you're about to do, stand still. Whatever you're about to accomplish, it will be done, because God has much work for you to do, but you just have to stand still, because they're coming after you this time. You think they came after you last time? It has nothing to do with this time. Nothing. So I'm telling you, with all the accolades, it's a sacrifice. And this man was telling me everything that she needed to hear to confirm that this is what I need to do the second time. Because this is 40 years of service. 40 years of service. And we want to get to the justice part. But when he was telling us that, my wife said, that's the confirmation. The first time was hard. This time was unfathomable. How they attack us and attack us, attack us, attack us, attack us. People who donate to my campaign didn't donate to my campaign. People who I thought that was on my side wasn't on my side. People that I had on my last campaign, not a one on this campaign. They all turn against me. Everyone. So we're reeling with this We don't have money. We don't have nothing. We're reeling. The people that I thought I was going to get the money from, only one sent it. So we're still reeling. And so she said, well, you need to get a campaign manager. I don't have one. We can't afford one. We don't know where we're going to get one from. I have no idea. Then God spoke again and sent us a young lady who have never met. No job, raising her 2 kids. Bills are overdue. Can't pay them. Don't know anything about where she's going to get her money from. But she said God told her to come to me and work on my campaign and not question it. So I go to my wife. I said, I have this young lady. She has never worked on a campaign in her life. Don't know how to work on a campaign. She barely have a computer. But she said God told her to work on this. And she did. But imagine the excuses that she could have given justice. Now we're into it. Imagine she said, God told me to work for you, for whatever you're doing, for whatever reason that you're going to do it, because I'm assigned to you by God. I let my wife talk to her. She had the confirmation. But imagine working for someone where you don't know whether your bills are going to be paid. You don't know where you're going to eat. You don't know how your children is going to survive. We try to get her to have somebody to take the child for a day. $300 and some to look for a hold a baby. We were like, whoa. So imagine this woman put her infant daughter on her side and walk around while her daughter is chewing on my cards and she's delivering them. Her other daughter is running around putting my cards on the cars. She has to stop, go and get her daughter, and come back. But her baby is on her side every day, walking around with her. She's handing out my cards. Vote for my sheriff. Vote for my sheriff. Vote for my sheriff. And then God says, this is the work that we wanted to do, because all of a sudden, while she's working at the polls every single day. Because, see, when people claim they love me, they do, but only 6 people worked on my campaign. We didn't have a committee. I had her daughters, my wife, and a friend. And then we have this individual who put out every one of my signs. One person, besides me and my wife, didn't even know how to work an iPhone. But he put out my signs day and night and day, tireless, never asked for a penny. See, these are the behind the scenes that every leader has to go through that you will never see. When we talk about Martin, the things that he went through, Malcolm, he went through, because when you seeking justice, God places people in your life to change the world. So that's where we are. Because see, some things y'all don't know. Imagine when you get on this road, the person before this president, named Trump, calls your sheriff out by name. That sheriff, McFadden in Charlotte, is dangerous because it's his policies and procedures. 1 week later, the person under him, Pence, I won't even give either one of them the credit of the beginning of their name, in Fayetteville says, yes, that person in Charlotte, North Carolina, is a dangerous person to have. Then we had this person named Dan Bishop. We all know him. If you don't look at it. He did his commercials with me on it and talked about me. But God put us together a couple of weeks ago. When the Greek community invited me to speak out in South Park, I was the featured speaker, not Dan Bishop. Dan Bishop sat there and they gave him 2 minutes to speak. And he spoke and he left. But Dan Bishop called me back. Well, his staff called me back. So he could never say he called me. His staff called me back and says, we will help you on what you need. So imagine God places me here to seek justice for the people who cannot find justice. Because I'm going to bring you greetings from the 1.2 million people here in Mecklenburg County who live here. Then I'm going to bring you greetings from the 1,200 men and women who sacrifice themselves every day to work with me in the detention center, sometimes 20 hours a day. 22 hours a day. Where it got so bad that me and my wife was trying to celebrate her birthday and my birthday downtown. I'm on a crutch. I pulled my tore my Achilles tendon. They said, we don't even have staff to run the facility. Can you help us? I had to leave my wife at a hotel, go downtown, answer the phone, because my staff members are there working 20 hours, nonstop, in the middle of COVID. But here's what we didn't understand, too. I got 1,400 men and women inside my detention center that you all or somebody still may call inmates. But if you want justice, you got to start with humanity. So we call them residents. Because when you want humanity, you got to start with somebody, so you start with the head. So then we call them the residents. So imagine they want to be here but can't be here. So they depend on me to find them justice. But they depend on me to find them humanity first, because we treat them with less humanity. But here's what happened. They come back to our community, and we call it re-entry. But how would we treat them if they come through that door? See, it's pretty to give the stuff and back away. And it's pretty to come and speak with them for 1 or 2 hours. And every church got a prison ministry. But what if they come through that door? How would they be treated? How would they be welcomed? What would they do? Because I love St. Mark. Y'all don't know I have a little history with St. Mark. And some people treat me like their son, you know, and that's a beautiful thing, because, see, when they gave me a badge and a gun at 22 years old, this is the street that I patrol. This is where I would back my car in at night and do my paperwork. Why? Because first, it was a United Methodist church. I was raised in a United Methodist church, which my family was so crazy. When they found a church, my family got into argument, and they built 2 churches in South Carolina with the same exact name. And the pastor is the pastor of both churches. So I know my wife, when we walk in here, this is like, okay, every Methodist church has this arch, everything have this. This is my mama's church, who was the secretary for 45 years. Because when we built the church, my great-grandfather and brothers got into an argument, and one built a church over here and one built a church over here. So the pastor had to go second and fourth Sunday, first and third Sunday. And the only great part that we had is every fifth Sunday we came together and alternate. So that's how we grew up until 10 years ago, till somebody said, stop, this is crazy. So I feel good being here. But justice is hard. And I know we say Let's Get Exposed. And that's what the title, Let's Get Exposed. And my wife says, well, to make sure that they know that you're not a pastor. I said, honey, I think they do. I don't think I'm going to say anything wrong, but Ezekiel 45:9 states, put away violence and destruction and practice justice and righteousness. In order to have healthy emotional minds, we need to expose ourselves to things that bring goodness, kindness to each of us. It's funny that y'all asked me to do that, because my wife will tell you I probably have never wrote a scripture in any of my speeches. For the first time I did. And I'm going to hold on to this because something is about this. Because when my executive assistant asked me to send it, I'm like, okay, I'll send them a scripture. And then I had to think to myself, this is perfect. Because God sent me to Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, North Carolina, in 1977 to go to Johnson C. Smith, become the police and all these accolades and all this stuff, to do this work now. This is the work that he wants to see. This is the work of justice. This is the work where you walk in a building and say, we will not call these people inmates, we will call them residents. We will not call this a detention center because they're only being detained to move on, so we will only have to be detaining them. So this is why I have, see, these are the things I'm going to tell you, honey, I'm going to finish. This is why I have a culinary school that my sister don't mention, but these are the things that I want to talk about. I have a culinary school inside, and I give all the men knives, and they chop food with knives. When the news came, they said, Sheriff, were you scared? I said, scared to death. I was in fear every time I walk in there. I was like, not today, Lord. Don't let them take this today, Lord. And he said, so why did you go in there every day? Well, I said, I am the food tester. He says, what? Oh, I thought you were talking about the food, because every day they make something, I had to eat it. Oh, I wasn't worried about the knives. I was worried about what I was going to eat and drink to test at the culinary school. So you think that I was scared because the knives? No, because I had talked to the men to say, if you do something, they'll put it on the news and we won't have the culinary school. Have a barber school inside. I have a digital literacy school inside, because, see, some of you, like the brother said, you think some people can still read or didn't read. They can't read now. But we do have a place in there for them to read and write. And then when they finish the digital literacy program, we give them 3 suits. And we give them a computer to leave with something they never had. And we go on and on and on and on. And how I know it works, because whatever y'all doing outside, we try to mimic inside. We have a women's conference inside, because y'all have a conference. We have a women's conference called Still I Rise. We have a men's conference says Removing the Mask. Now here's the one that's made me had to think twice. After the men's conference, a brother said, I'm going to prison, but I want to be baptized. I said, that's a little different. But he said, but brother, where I'm going now, I want to take God with me, but I want my soul to be cleansed. I said, well, staff, my man want to be baptized. Now, before last month, I would have tried to do everything myself, but my wife said, you can't. So on my second journey, I'm trying to let somebody else do it. So I said, y'all need to find a baptismal pool. We have a baptismal pool inside, a mobile baptism pool. And I still have the pictures of him being baptized and his mother there and his family there. When he rised up, he was a different person. And he walked away and he said, Sheriff, thank you. Thank you for what you do for us. Because sometimes people forget us. This is the justice that you can't see on paper. This is not a Bill of Rights. This is something that they can't do in D.C. They can't do it in Raleigh because their mindset is not there yet.
That's right.
So justice for me is being a little different. Seeking justice and seeking this, what we said, change the mind. And how do we get the suits? I give some, my staff gives some, but here's what we do also. We go to the dry cleaners because y'all don't go after somebody dies. I go. And I get everything from 2019 that somebody left there. But imagine a young man putting a suit on for the very first time in his life. What does it do for him? This is the justice that we don't see and we don't talk about. When I listened at the brother about the truck, he reminded me to say another one. Imagine having a CDL school that you learn men and women how to drive trucks. Because, see, the school is right behind this hotel here that nobody knows about. But when they called me, just like you all called me, I went and said, what do you got for me? Not about what other accolade that I could have. It's just what justice that I can give this men and women to come out. So we're going to have a CDL school. And the machine is a simulator, costs $90,000. 90. When I went to see them and they invited me to a couple of things, I said, thank y'all. You want to say anything? No. Why? Because I'm looking for $90,000. I thought y'all was going to give me $90,000. Because I'm looking for justice for the people who can't get justice. And so I went on and went on. And so what God did is put so much on this man's mind. He go to the Department of Justice, said, I got a little crazy sheriff in North Carolina who's talking about justice. Because, see, this ain't the justice that you thought I was going to talk about. And so then he says, man, he wants this. Why? I don't know. The justice said, we'll do a grant. We're going to do a grant. And we're going to give him $450,000. But he's not giving me the $450,000. He's giving the community, because community, you're going to benefit from it. So let me get this straight, because I know my wife might say, you talking about you. No, we're talking about you, because here's what I'm going to say. When we're talking about justice and everything else, after we get justice, they come home. Every time somebody say, Sheriff, why are you doing all of this? And here's the question I always ask them, and they never can answer. Well, how would you want me to prepare your neighbor? Because I can surely let him stay there and lift weights, come out, and don't tell him anything. Then he comes back out, breaking your house, and then you want to talk about meet us with the police. Can we talk about community safety? Can we talk about this? The justice we have in America now needs each and every one of us. You have to go beyond what you've been doing. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit more. You're going to have to do when nobody else wants to do for you. And you have to go where nobody else wants to go. When I leave the house, sometimes I come back and just lay on the couch, and my wife says, why? Somebody else can. But when God places something in your heart, this is my burden. This is something I have to live with. This is the tradition and legacy of my family. And if you ever come to my office, out of all of these accolades that you've heard, all these awards and the pictures with the president, and all of the stuff, you will never see any of those on my wall in my office. None. None. Because every morning I look up, I see 7 generations of black men. Not man of color. You know how we dance with that sometimes, because we want to bring somebody else in to make us know. Black men that who sacrifice everything for me to sit in this seat that I'm sitting in. Because when they sought justice, and I'm going to close now, honey. When they sought justice in 1947, when everybody else is worried about busing and where we're going to go and Brown versus the Board of Education. See, education started with Brown versus the Board of Education at Allen University in South Carolina when the NAACP and everybody came together. They said, we need to do something about busing. People with my last name and my blood running through their veins walked away from that meeting and said, well, how long do they think this is going to take? When are we going to have to get it? We want justice for our kids now. So we got to wait on them and Thurgood Marshall and all these other people in Topeka, Kansas, and all this other stuff. We can't wait. They came back together, sold the dogs, the chickens, the cats, the corn, the grapes, the tomatoes, and everything, sacrificed. And they bought a bus. 1947, they bought a bus. That picture of that bus is in there. Because when you're talking about justice, you can't wait for anybody to give you justice, because let me tell you why you don't have justice now. Every single March, you will hear these words: we want justice. Then you even answer, when do we want it? We want it now. So why are we still asking for justice? Why can't we show them what justice looked like and continue to give me that? Because the reason I travel, as my wife says, why do they call you all the time? Because I'm showing them what it is that they need to do. Let me give you an example of what they need to do. Let me show you what they need to do. Because where I'm going now to speak for a whole week and be all the places, because they had a board committee, a executive committee of 44 white men, no women, and one black man. But they asked me to come and speak. And like my wife is helping with me, I'm better. When something says say it, I say it. I tell them what I feel. Well, why'd you say that? Then all of a sudden they're like, we would need some of you, but don't bring it all the time. But this is when you talk about justice across America. We need justice. When do we want it? We want it now. But do you know how to get justice? And do you know what to do with it when you have it? Closing. When we have officer-involved shootings across America, here's why we don't get justice. I'm going to give you a secret, because we don't know how to get justice. Let me tell you where you sit. Leaving here today, I want you to look up this United States Supreme Court decision called Graham versus Connor. Graham versus Connor. Graham versus Connor is the United States Supreme Court decision that governs every single use of force in law enforcement history. So whatever they do across America, when you see the police shootings and everything else, you will see at the bottom it says Graham versus Connor. Graham versus Connor is a United States Supreme Court decision that governs and supports all officer shootings, because all the officers have to say is this: I was in fear for my life, and he has reasonable objectiveness to believe that what was going on that moment is why he did that. It has never been challenged as much as it should be challenged. Now, here's the beautiful part about it. The United States Supreme Court decision that governs every use of force, excessive force in America, that the United States Supreme Court decided on, that it took them from 1985 to 1989, was decided a mile and a half from here. Y'all don't even know that. The store where this famous incident happened is on West Boulevard near Steel Creek. It's a little store. It's an old sign that says Southside Grill Store. The incident is named after Connor. Connor was my partner that day, and Connor was my partner until we retired together Well, he retired before me, and we both worked in homicide together. The very case that governs everything in America was decided in your city, and both of the people, they all live in your city. 6 of the defendants live in your city, and we don't even know that. But somebody else does. They do. Because, see, we still following other people to seek justice. When we're seeking justice, we want somebody to stand, and we all around the microphone, and we want justice, but we ain't working on it. But they are. Because when they hear all the accolade that she gave me, they searched me out and found me. And you look up this case. If you look up Lamont Armstrong, Greensboro, North Carolina, Lamont Armstrong wanted justice. He hired a lawyer. The lawyer hired me to get justice for Lamont, who was wrongfully convicted of a murder in Greensboro. $6.5 million later, Lamont Armstrong went home. Because where we seek justice, we give our time to someone else, and then we think they're going to do something for us. The reason that we don't have a George Floyd Criminal Justice Act is because we didn't demand it. We gave it to somebody else in D.C., and we thought they were carrying the water and carrying the torch. No. The Asian had a shooting in Atlanta. 4 Asian women were killed in Atlanta. Look it up. They got justice. And they got a hate bill in their name. If you want justice, you do need it now, but you need to understand it takes sacrifice, it takes sweat, it takes money out of your pocket, it takes time away from your wife, it takes time away from your family. Think about this. Martin Luther King was all over the world because he was looking for justice. In closing, even he didn't get all the justice that he wanted. And let me tell you why. Because you don't know, and this is a history fact. Then I'm going to break it down one more time. We all know about Selma, Alabama, and the Great Bloody Sunday. And all of this is going on, right? But you didn't know this. Even though they celebrated their 50th anniversary, people in Selma, Alabama did not register to vote until the year 2000. Look it up. 2000. Joe Smitherman was still the mayor of Selma, Alabama until 2000. 2000. But we celebrate it because we've got justice. No, we talk about it, but we didn't see it. But did we look at the facts? Because, see, here's why I know that is for certain. The sacrifice that I put on my family and me to seek justice for you and others is unmeasurable. You get a phone call while you're at your son's soccer game. My wife probably don't even know all of this. We get a call from Reverend White. She said, if Reverend White call you, you always got to go. And I said, he does, because he's running the NAACP, and I got to go. So imagine, say, brother, we are in turmoil. We down here in Selma, Alabama. They're about to kill us because we're trying to register people to vote. Can you come, brother? Can you come? Imagine leaving your family, driving to Atlanta, spending the night at the Reverend's house. We, just like Martin Luther King, we in this room, we are talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Okay, when we go to Selma, this is what we're going to do in the name of justice. When we get there, we're going to have to register people to vote, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. People not registered to vote in Selma. I thought Martin and them took care of that. No, they're not registered. 2000. Look it up when I tell you. Joe Smitherman. We drive from Atlanta to Selma like they did in the 60s. Scared. Radios don't work. Hotel won't give us a place to stay. 2000. When we drove in across the famous Edmund Pettus Bridge, 12 o'clock at night, when we crossed that bridge, the time went back to 60. Nothing on the street, nobody to see. We're driving to the hotel, and just like the movies, a car pulls behind you. The lights come on. Then it pull away. Another car comes up, pulls behind you, pull away. We didn't even go by our real names. We never registered with our real names. We didn't go nowhere but together. We went to Walmart, and the price changed from the time we picked it up till we got to the register. This is 2000. The mayor had chicken and beer in the park all day before the election, because what? We would be in the park eating and drinking and too drunk to go to the place. In the name of justice, in the name of rights and equality. And see, these are things that you'll never hear about. But when that lady fell by my feet, and me and Reverend White and Reverend Rivers, and she said, "Thank you all for seeking justice for us when the others didn't." And when the sun came up that morning, the three of us stood by the McFadden's bridge and says, they came across, but they never got justice for the people. And our names are not going to go down in history. And I don't expect it to. The history that you heard this young lady talk about is a great history. But the history I live with in my heart the history that I live in my heart every day is when I walk into that detention center and those men and women say, "Sheriff, we love you. Sheriff, we got your back. Sheriff, where you been? Sheriff, my mama called and you took care of that." Or when a mother called and she said, "Gary," they don't even say sheriff, "I need you to take care of so-and-so. I need you to make sure this is done." That's the justice I'm going to give their son. But that is the greatest reward that you could ever have, when somebody say, "Thank you for getting me justice." But the biggest part is this that we fail to understand. Thank you for the humanity that you brought inside this detention center. Because before you came, they treated us like dirt. They treated us like trash. They call us names. So at the end of my career, I still will tell them this. It's because I want my neighbor to be productive. I want my neighbor to love their neighbor. And I want my neighbor to love me. So again, if you don't like none of this, tell me, how do you want me to prepare your neighbor? Because they still will be your neighbor. That is what I'm going to leave you all with. Don't turn your back on them. Love them when nobody else loves them. Care for them when nobody else cares for them. Because see, here's what happens. What if one of those people become the president? What if one of these people becomes the sheriff? Because I was treated very well in this area, loved in this area, ate well in this area. Still have a plate in my cabinet that I will never throw away. It's the ugliest plate in the world. But that day, that lady fixed me that plate, and I went behind Amy James School. It was a beautiful thing. So let me leave you with this. If you want justice, it depends on you. And if you don't get it, you can't blame nobody but yourself. Because you have the power. Because nobody would ever believe I would be a sheriff. I didn't even believe I wanted to be a sheriff. Didn't ever want to think about being a sheriff. But when you pray to God and God gives you a mission, you stick with that mission. But here's what I'm going to tell you. God's word has no sin in it. So be careful what God tells. You say, well, God told me to do this. God didn't have no sin in it. But also, let me tell you this. know your role, know your place. Because God didn't tell Moses to go over there and help Noah, and didn't tell Noah to go over and help Moses. He gave both an individual assignment, and they stuck to their assignment and did their assignment. Stick with your assignment, do your assignment well, and your name will be remembered in this neighborhood. But pray for me and my wife. Pray for my kids. One thing, I have another grandson coming that they didn't talk about. I'm scared because he's away from me. But I'm going to instill in him of that 7 generations on the wall. Because in my office, if you ever come to see it, is a big, gigantic cotton plant sitting in a corner. Because after they bought the bus, that was their legacy. That's not my legacy. Martin Luther King's dream was his dream, not your dream.
That's right.
Our legacy was to buy back some of the cotton fields that we, family, friends, with my blood, were slaves in. We bought our fields back and rent them back out to the great-great-grandson of the slave owner. So if you come to St. Paul United Methodist Church in Elliott, South Carolina, look just like this. The church is on our property. The deed is in our name. And 15 acres that way is ours. And the road that the church is on is McFadden Lane. Named after Clarence McFadden, who bought the bus. Let your legacy be for the true justice. And don't turn the TV on all the time saying, why ain't they doing this? And the TV should say, why ain't you doing this? That is how you get justice. God bless you. May God keep you. And again, thank you, St. Mark, for allowing me to have this time. Am I all right, honey? You sure? This is my wife. She's going to tell me what I did wrong, no matter what. But let me tell you, look, she is also, this is a wonderful lady. They don't give her accolades. She was the first, can I talk about you for a minute? We got to go? No. My wife is a 3-time athlete at a little school. What's the school name? Dudley. Oh, Dudley. She's a high school crazy athlete, and anybody, when the pastor said, Dudley, I said, oh, Lord, that's the Panther, that's my wife. So, but she has done brilliant things in her life also. So don't let her. She was the first black female alcohol and law enforcement agent in the state. No other females have come after her. None come before her. And she's retired from Wells Fargo. I'm trying to get, I know I joke about this, but really not. She retired as a vice president from Wells Fargo. I'm trying to get her to go back to work because she got too many projects. And so trying to do some stuff. But she is a phenomenal woman, and I'm trying to let her light shine also. And I try to push her all the time because after they talk to me, I say, talk to my wife. And then she makes these people excel, but I have to help her. But that's my wife, and I love her. Thank you.
Hallelujah. That's all right. That's